Are you ready, kids? Get your parents' permission, check your mailbox, and grab your shopping cart. It's time for the Adventures in Collecting podcast.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Dave. Welcome to Adventures in Collecting, where we talk toy news, culture, and hauls,
along with our journeys as collectors. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Adventures in Collecting.
Hi, I'm back. I took a week off.
Yeah, it's been a weird couple of weeks for us at Adventures in Collecting. We had a vacation, so we had some episodes that were like backfilled, and then we had our special chats with Marvel and with G.I. Joe. Our Instagram account got deleted.
I was gonna say we had an Instagram.
Yeah. So if we're running into this problem, and before we get into today's, I am going to bury the lead for a moment, just because I feel like we need to very quickly address this, just very quickly. So we do have a new Instagram handle, so it's at Adventures in Collecting. We're no longer at AIC_podcast.
Unless you're on Twitter, then we are there.
Yeah, I couldn't change it. It won't let me. It's at Adventures in Collecting is too long for Twitter, so I can't change it to that. So we're at AIC_podcast on Twitter. Everything's fine there, but we're at Adventures in Collecting on Instagram and TikTok. To be honest, what we think happened was there was some nefarious action going on with our Instagram account. Either bots coming after us or some sort of reporting situation that was happening. Instagram Meta cited us as being in violation of the community guidelines. They gave us no other information in terms of what we violated. They just linked us back to the community guidelines page, to which we read and reread and could find nothing on there that we actually violated. But they did take down the account. There appears to be no recourse. We are constantly filling out appeal forms for the account to see if we can get it back. But yeah, in the meantime, we've relaunched on Instagram, which is crazy to say. After 3 years and 8,000 followers, we are starting from scratch.
So if you guys know each other, just let each other know.
Yes,
all 8,000 of you.
The biggest thing that you guys can do to help is just spread the word that we are at Adventures in Collecting now on Instagram. The same sort of content you're used to seeing, which is also leading itself to like an additional problem because people are seeing the posts that they're used to seeing from Adventures in Collecting. So you may not realize that you are not following us just because you're still seeing our stuff. So just take a second to go to at Adventures in Collecting. Make sure that you are following us. So that way you don't miss stuff, and help us rebuild that AIC family that we've come to know over the last 3 years. So, and big shouts to folks at Toy Migos and Toy Shiz and Jay Hernandez and Nostalgic Adam and Dollar Slice Bootlegs and so on for sharing the information and
everybody
helping us.
Who's shared out.
Yeah, thank you so much to everybody. Yeah,
thank you, community. Action Figure Insider too, right?
Yes, Dan over at Action Figure Insider. Thank you. It's been tough. It's been a little bit of a struggle, but we'll get there one way or another. We'll get back there.
Now we can unbury the lead, but thank you as well to our guest today, Eric.
Yes,
for sharing our information out.
Exactly. So, as has become usual with the pod, we have a guest today. The world of the MCU and the ever-popular Hasbro Marvel Legends line recently collided like never before, thanks to a little help from toy journalist and reviewer The Figure Report. You see, much like the recent Disney Plus series, the figures in question are based off of the story of the first in-hand review of the new Moon Knight and Mr. Knight came complete with its own twist ending, as The Figure Report's Michael Hernandez revealed that he is Moon Knight star Oscar Isaac's brother, an actor himself who also worked on set as Mark and Steven's body double, helping to create the show's magic. Joining us today on the pod is Michael Hernandez. Michael, welcome to Adventures in Collecting.
Hey guys, how you doing? I'm sorry to hear about the Instagram thing. I mean, you must have pissed someone off at Instagram or something. I'm not sure what happened.
We can't figure it out. There's no
Yeah,
answer.
Conspiracy theory.
it's a huge mystery, but
Yeah,
So
or
what
that's normal.
we'll do our best to the way that I look at it is if we were able to do it once, we'll be able to do it again, and we'll keep growing. I mean, hey, we started just a couple weeks ago on this new account with just like 100 followers, and we're already almost at 600. So it's slow goings. It's not 8,000, but we'll get there. We'll get
You
there.
will get there. Yes, if you build it, they will come. So,
Exactly. So before we get started, as this is a show about collecting, the first thing we ask all of our guests, what are you currently collecting?
basically, I'm collecting whatever will not infuriate my fiance because our apartment's very small, and so I've had to limit our collection. My collection. I call it our collection now. It's become like a unified thing. So primarily a lot of like Mayfex stuff, Mayfex X-Men specifically. I've had to whittle down a lot of the Mayfex stuff I wanted to get. It's actually been kind of cool because it's also refreshing to not feel like I have all these like hundreds and hundreds of pre-orders. Or I mean, that's a little bit of hyperbole there, but it's just a bunch of pre-orders of stuff that I don't know when it's going to come. And so narrowing down my collection, collecting stuff that I really love and want, would include the Mayfix X-Men stuff, a few Marvel Legends here and there. Um, I'm tempted by everything, man. Just like anyone else, I see something new and I want it, and it's hard to deny myself something that looks really awesome and cool and new and different. But right now, it's slow and steady with the collecting. So bring it down a little bit, get a few things here and there, and that's kind of where my collection's at right now.
Yeah, I think we're going to start to see that more of an answer. As we kind of as the pandemic starts to dwindle and dwindle, and people start to kind of get back into other aspects of their life. Because typically, the answer we've been getting is like, the
everything.
yeah, what it's more like what don't I
Everything,
collect?
yeah. Yeah, it's exactly. I think like during the pandemic, it was like collecting took on a whole new level of existence. Just for me specifically, I started watching a lot more reviewers and getting kind of more into like, oh, look at this, look at that. That's stuff I had noticed, but I wasn't sure if I wanted. And then before I knew it, I was just getting stuff like every week. I wasn't going out, so I had to had stuff come to me. So I just ordered a bunch of stuff, and then it got a little bit too much. And then I was like, "What am I doing? What have I done? I'm gone
And
mad with toys."
and it actually brings up a good point too, because like we weren't going anywhere, so you
Yeah,
couldn't see anything on the shelves and on the pegs. So the the reviews and the videos and the unboxings were the pegs in theory, because otherwise you're just looking at whatever's on that online store, whether you're going to Target or a more specialized place. It's the reviewers were the ones who were kind of saying like, hey, this is what this is. This is your kind of in hand view of it.
yeah. I think that is very true, and also the fact that I think also manufacturers and different people started focusing more on their online releases and online schedules and a lot more reveals through like YouTubers and stuff like that. That started happening a lot more. I saw like a little bit like in 2021, 22 this year as well. So yeah, it's just taken a whole new form of collecting where mostly everything is online. And so you pre-order everything online now. I mean, NECA does that now. Like I remember going out searching desperately for like a Bebop and Rocksteady 2-pack and calling every Target. Now I don't even step in Target anymore unless I need some toilet paper. Like it's like toys for me have all become online, which is good and bad. It has its pros and cons, I feel. But yeah, collecting is always transforming, and the evolution of it. It's always changing our habits and how we collect, especially mine specifically. And I'm kind of in a happy place right now with my collection. I have a lot of stuff that I've always wanted. A few little things here and there I want to still get, but overall, I'm in a pretty decent place, I gotta say.
So what started your collection? Like, what was the thing where you were like, hey, this I need, and it just kind of went on from there?
Yeah, so I come from a long line of toy enthusiasts and collectors. My uncle Grew up in Guatemala, and he grew up a big Star Wars fan, and he started collecting the old vintage 70, 80 Kenner toys. Um, and so that was his love, and so it kind of passed through to my cousin, who is also a collector, then to me, down the generation of just like long list of collectors. And so it kind of happened from there. And then, as a kid, I was into all like basically like Fox cartoon stuff, X-Men, Spider-Man, and Batman as well. And all that stuff was right up my alley. And then just toys were just super fun. And then I'm just trying to remember like where like my first figure was, if I can. Not entirely sure, but I remember like getting all of like the Spider-Man cartoon figures. I just like that was my thing, and also the X-Men ones. And then eventually it went to like just like getting stuff for like my birthday or Christmas, to like actively hunting and going with my uncle to Toys R Us and Walmart every day, and like pallet searching. And so it's always been like a part of my life.
So going from the actual, collecting itself and kind of just enjoying the toys privately, what led you to start the figure report?
So we just mentioned the pandemic, and so it kind of spawned from there. I was just home watching videos, not doing a lot, which is kind of like my normal routine anyway. But specifically, not being able to go outside. So, as a joke, by the way, I do stuff. I am active. But yeah, so just to dispel any rumors out there. So yeah, so then my fiance, who was my girlfriend at the time, was like, "Why don't you like do like a video? Why don't you start like your own channel and like do something, like do something, basically?" So I'm like, "That's a good idea." And like I had so much stuff already. She's like, "Why don't you just take the stuff you have and do like some videos on them, have fun with it?" I'm like, "Cool." Immediately proceeded to order like 10 new figures. I'm like, I'm going to review the newest stuff. And so it kind of was like I had some stuff like I took pictures of and played with and posed with as well. And so the figure reporters came out of that, just like wanting to do something fun with like the new stuff I was getting, and like doing unboxings with my roommate at the time, Jay, and then doing little videos here and there. So it really came from her telling me to do something. And yeah, so she's always a great motivator.
That's awesome to have that little catalyst, the little kickstart.
Yeah, a little push, a little push, a little motivational push.
Yeah, having the support rules, it's the best.
Well, yeah, for sure. It's like a support and also like control, because it's like she's like telling, like, she's telling me like, okay, you have so much stuff, why don't you just do something with it? And I'm like, that's a great idea. And then I was like, I need to order new figures, because like I gotta have more. Like I gotta keep up to date with everything. And so like at a certain point it became very overwhelming, trying to be like, okay, I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna review this, I'm gonna take some pictures, I'm gonna do an unboxing, and then like it wouldn't really go anywhere because I'd just be overwhelmed with so many figures. But now it's like trying to manage my collection a little bit better. And but the figure report is just fun thing. That's a cool way to connect with a community I've loved for a long time and never really was aware of how to before. In Miami, I actually wrote, that's where I grew up, and I was raised, lived in Miami for like 20 something years. I started writing articles on figures. I can't find the articles anymore because it was for like examiner.com. I don't know if you guys remember that website.
Hmm.
So I just was like the local toy reporter for that website. So I did some reviews on certain figures. I did like profiles on some comic book stores and local stores in Miami. And then um, that was like my first kind of like way into like toy journalism. And then Figure Report came about through the pandemic, and it's been fun just like connecting with people and talking about toys. And yeah, it's really, really cool.
So having done so much work on TV and film, do you take any of what you've learned on set into making reviews on the figure report?
Basically, I try to just be like, okay, what do I find fun and entertaining? Try to keep it professional. Like if I am part of a set of a TV show or a film, um, it's hard to kind of translate what I learned from there to figure report, because I was doing figure report. I mean, I guess like yeah, I was doing it in 2020. I had been acting a little, starting act. I just started acting in 2017, so I'm still relatively new to the field. But yeah, I think just like what I find entertaining, if I find something interesting, or like, oh, like how do I imagine stuff in my mind? How like they storyboard stuff. That was very helpful with Figure Report, trying to feel like, okay, I have a beginning, a middle, and an end. There's a story I want to tell with my videos, but also something that I would enjoy watching if it wasn't me, you know? So, um, yeah, I think there's some parallels to what I've done in film and TV and what I've learned from there and brought it to Figure Report. A lot of like editing as well, like learning what's a great program to edit with. Um, yeah, so those are a few things, and then also showing it to like some of my coworkers and being a little embarrassed, but then also being like, like they're really receptive to it too. It's like I think they're all in the creative field, and so they see that creativity through action figures as well. Whether you're making a video or you're doing pictures, um, so you feel a little less embarrassed. Also, I mean, the biggest properties are the toy figures that like they're based off of, like Marvel and Star Wars and stuff. So they're just like unanimous. They're all over the world, so people recognize these brands. So having little figures is not like a new concept, but this whole world of collecting and making videos and realizing how popular they are, and in concert with the properties they're based off of, people get it, they can connect with it in a certain way, you know and it's just yeah, it's cool to kind of see those things come together.
Plus, there's way more of us than I think people realize. There's a lot of
Dozens of us.
Yeah,
dozens. No, but
we might
there's
even hit the triple digits. I'm not sure.
Really close.
there's a lot more people out there that are like quiet action figure collectors, or at the very least like collectibles.
Yeah,
If they're not buying the $20 a pop Marvel Legends figures, like
right.
you'll find that like you start talking about action figures, and people are like, oh well, yeah, I have 20 Hot Toys figures,
Hmm.
and it's
But
like, oh, do you
people
now?
have been collecting stuff forever. It's not like a new concept to be a collector or a hobby, like an enthusiast of a certain product or something. Like
Yeah.
if it's not action figures, you're collecting something. And people that collect little spoons or dinosaur fossils or something. Something they think is cool and that they have some extra cash to spend on, or something they have a lot of love with. I want to connect with people through that specific thing. It's not a new concept, right? So being able to do something creative and fun and connect with people is a pretty awesome um, part of making these videos.
The other thing that I find like interesting too, because you talked about like bouncing the videos and the articles and stuff off of people that you know. Some of the most interesting like kind of thought process I've had or feedback that I've had is people who don't collect,
Yeah.
because it's like, hey, what's interesting to someone who has no basis in this whatsoever?
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of what I aim to do is like I try to find a medium between the two places, a gray area where it's appealing to collectors and also non-collectors, what they find interesting. And so it's hard to you're not going to please everyone, that's just impossible. And I at least try to find a place where, like you just said, how do non-collectors approach it? What they think about it? So I show it. I show videos to everyone from like my collector friends, my uncle, my cousin, who are also collectors, and I show it to my brother or my sister-in-law, my fiance, um, other members of my family, other friends. So I try to like other people that I know, and like the other, like maybe like a director that I know. I'm interested in what he thinks. And so like it's cool to kind of get an idea of what generally people like, and a lot of people love seeing a lot of personality. They love humor. They like something that looks creative. It looks a little bit like, oh, someone had fun making this. Because again, they're toys. They shouldn't be taken so seriously, and you should be having fun posing and taking pictures and doing videos, even if you don't like the figure. It's still a fun. You're still playing. Just like you would on set, and it's the same kind of thing. That's also one thing I could say that maybe I took from working on film and TV, is that these are fun things to do. You're playing, you're pretending. So doing the work should feel fun and it should feel like work at the same time. So um yeah, it's interesting getting feedback and reaction from people that are both in the toy world and not toy world.
So speaking of kind of the interaction and the interactivity of the community, since you've started doing your reviews and your videos, do you prefer like live unboxings, or do you find yourself more of like a perfectionist? With like the way that you did the Moon Knight reveal video, where you had time to edit and tweak and kind of get timing and everything.
Well, thank you. I also agree that my Moon Knight video was a perfection. So thank you for telling me that. I'm glad someone finally was, man enough to tell me. No, I, I, I am like you said. I think there's that perfectionist, seed in your mind when you're editing something, putting something together. You know, I went through maybe 3 different versions of the Moon Knight review, and I, showed it to different people. I tried different things, and so it got to a point where I was like, okay, I really need to like focus on the things that I enjoy that I think would be fun for people to watch, something that's fun to shoot, and not take it so seriously, but also have enough information for people that they get a good idea of what the Moon Knight figure offers and Mr. Knight. So there is a lot of fun in delivering that kind of material, but also it's a painstakingly, um, arduous editing process because I want it to be great. I want it to sound great. I don't know if you can hear, but I also do with like sirens at every single point, like an hour on the hour kind of thing. So like I have a lot of noise. It's hard to edit inside a small apartment sometimes. So that's why it's also fun to just do the unboxing. So you don't have to worry about all that stuff. You don't have to worry about outside noise and certain conditions. You can just have fun, be on the spot. That's also like a fun thing. Like I took some improv classes just for the hell of it, and so it's fun to kind of just shoot off the cuff. It's kind of what I used to do in Miami. I used to be a college radio DJ, and so a lot of it was just like getting on the air and just finding like a funny thing to talk about or some ideas you wanted to tell people or I take live phone calls and see how those interactions goes and come up with sketches on the air. And so taking some of that energy into the unboxings is fun and interacting with people. That's cool. So they all have their differences, that I enjoy and stuff that I find maybe stressful. But I like doing them both. So I definitely want to do more videos, more reviews, and keep the lives going as well because those are really fun to interact with people.
So you've worked in films with your brother before, but nothing quite like this. Was it challenging alternating between Steven and Mark for takes? So tell us a little bit about how that experience on the Moon Knight series worked.
Was it tough for me to alternate between Mark and Steven?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
Because I mean, well, both of you were kind of
yeah,
doing it
that's true.
simultaneously, right?
Right. Yeah. So basically, our day would involve okay, who are we doing first? Are we going to cover Mark first? Or are we covering Steven? Um, and so that's kind of like how the day started, especially when we got to those scenes where, I mean, you guys seen the whole show, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
spoilers to follow. If you have not watched Moon
Spoilers.
Knight on Disney
yes,
Plus, maybe pause right now.
Yeah. This is
yeah.
the
Watch
secret
Moon
part.
Knight.
Don't stop listening. Like you can pick this back up later. We want you to hear this.
Well,
Um,
you can pause it or mute it, so long as it plays fully, and then go back to this part.
but do watch the show because it rules, but b
Yeah,
you don't want to hear things that you haven't watched yet.
exactly. So here comes the secret portion. Secrets. Okay, secret time. So in episode 5, you see, or end of episode 4, and all of episode 5, it's Mark and Steven and their own bodies, right? So then those scenes required either me, next to him, or off camera giving lines, or sometimes over my shoulder. And so the day of, we would see, okay, who's kind of driving the scene, right? And then we'd go off. Okay, we're gonna do with Mark first. We're gonna start off with Mark, and then we would try to do, because sometimes it can be a lot for like an actor that's doing 2 characters, to like go Mark Steven Mark Steven. So we try to find the most seamless way of just doing Mark first and then Steven towards the second half of our day. And so primarily with just, I was just trying to get on Oscar's wavelength, and so we would talk about stuff either before we shot or like right when we get up to it. And a lot of the times we would get we would get our script or like the day of, the night before, sides as we call them, and then you read the different sides, and you have your call sheet and everything, and tells you, okay, you're going to be Steven first. But then reading the scenes, I try to anticipate. A lot of it is anticipation, being like, okay, what's Oscar going to do in this scene? How's he going to behave in this one? What's his kind of mind, his state of mind for Mark? This just happened before, so now he's like this. So this is his energy level. This is what's going through his mind. So always having those things in mind, so that I'm playing it as authentically and as real as Oscar would. And so trying just to be there. And the fact that like I kind of know him, I know his, some of his patterns. But like working with him on this level is different, and also like learning how to like step back and realizing it's not about you, because an actor has a very fragile ego sometimes. So channeling that ego, being like, okay, it's not about you, it's about this whole thing, it's about this production, it's about getting him to a place that feels authentic, because he's the one giving the performance. So it was cool that it was also like lesson in acting. It was a master class, and that was a lot of fun to do. And yeah, so it was that whole stuff. It was technically difficult, because you rely a lot of like on timing and camera movement and hitting your mark at a very specific time when the two characters meet, like in the hallway, and when they're walking. It all has to be in perfect synchronicity. So those things got a little tedious and difficult, but I think the character work was really fun. I think Oscar enjoyed it as well. I think he felt pretty good about it.
So when you got a chance to be Steven, were you doing the accent and everything too? In order to kind of keep the mood and everything as consistent as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we did the accent. We did the whole thing. We did the Chicago accent for Mark, and then the British accent for Steven. And mine wasn't so great, but I at least did it to the best that I could, to make it just feel like it's actually there. And a lot of it would just be to make Oscar laugh. Like we just do a lot of like funny stuff on, just like talking the accent. Like, a lot of like, I can't believe we done this, and just um it was just to also make the mood a little lighthearted, especially when it had like really serious stuff going on, but also just to like entertain and be fun, and to make the experience go a lot smoother, I think. And so that was something I felt like I added to the whole process of making the show. But yeah, I would spend some weekends like training for an hour with the dialect coach that was on set, Barbara Berkery. She's done like hundreds of projects. And so I would just talk to her, and she gave me these sheets of different practices, accent practices, and learning how to say certain vowels this way, and reference this, like reference like an old like Michael Caine film, or like different examples of how to do the accent. It was a very specific accent, and so it was just fun to do. Like I had a lot of fun doing it, and it just made it more fun. Sometimes for certain scenes, yeah, I would do that. I would do that. I would sometimes read off camera like conchu lines or something. And so it was just like we were just making this thing and having a lot of fun with it. And I think that spread throughout the whole crew.
And now, a word from our sponsors. And now, back to the show.
Yeah, it was great watching it after you had revealed the figures and and kind of the twist ending of your video. Um, it was fun watching. Like, I mean, the show was great, to begin with, but then when it got to like episode 5, and like kind of just knowing like, oh, that's really cool. That's you're kind of seeing, getting that kind of behind the scenes like uh tidbit before the
Hmm.
episodes happen,
Yeah.
made it, I think, in a lot of ways too, a lot more fun to watch, knowing that like, oh, this isn't, we're not seeing pure CGI. This isn't like
Yeah.
Oscar having to do this, fully do this twice, or like some
Yeah.
random stand-in. Like, it's his brother, and like, it's just, it was very cool. It was a
Yeah, it
very cool
wasn't like
thing.
he was talking to like a tennis ball and crying to like an ex or something. Like it was
Yeah.
actually connecting with another person, and the fact that it was me, I think, made it more hopefully made it more believable. He was actually talking to someone that was basically him, and who better than that than his brother, right? You're welcome. But I think that, yeah, hopefully it really translated to screen. I think it was like, I was really happy to be a part of like that specific episode. Like, that was the main part where like I had to really come in and deliver. That's like has the most like dramatic meat, to the whole show. Like, that's kind of like where you really understand why this is all happening, and who Mark is, and how Steven came to be, and learning about DID and the concepts of DID, um, and seeing like where it comes from, and how childhood trauma creates um, an altar. To protect yourselves. You almost develop this superhuman power. So of safety and security, and that's where the ulcers come from. And so, yeah, it was really awesome to be a part of that, and to make it feel as real and authentic as it could be told within the Marvel cinematic world. And I think that's also the cool thing about Marvel movies and shows, is they try to tell a human story that's encased in this giant Marvel spectacle of heroes and villains, of different worlds and multiverses and everything, and afterlives, and yeah, it's but it's cool to get to like an actual, the actual character and the actual story, and really trying to tell a story. And that's where you feel like you're really doing some good work. And so for me, it was just trying to connect with it, understand it. There's like a lot of scenes where like you see Mark breaking down and getting emotional, very emotional. And so, those scenes, like, I think about it like, okay, should I try to be crying in this? And it's not about showing emotion. It's all about like intention, like why you feel a certain way, and not you're just doing it. And so, I knew that, but then like in your head, you kind of get like, okay, I have to do it this way. I have to be very specific. But sometimes you just have to feel it, just feel it, and let it happen. And that's when it feels like it's a real honest thing that you're doing.
What would you say was the most surreal part of your Moon Knight experience?
I would say definitely putting on a fake nose. That was something that I don't know if it was in my contract or not, but it happened, man, and that was a little odd. The first time they did like the casing, that was kind of cool. Was when they poured the green goop over your head, like you always see them behind the scenes when they do like a full on casing of someone's face, and like they can reproduce it for like a mask or whatever. So they did that. It's like, being like in darkness for like 30 minutes, half an hour. And you have little holes you can breathe out of, and then pulling it off. And, that whole process was really cool, and going through different wigs, and the whole different nose process, being like, okay, should we do just a nose? We have like cheek parts, we have chin parts, and we have all these different little like uh, face parts that we could put on my face. We decided just to go with the nose because that was the most predominant and beautiful feature of Oscar that we try to replicate. And yeah, so that was kind of surreal for sure, putting on that stuff. And then, I think like just like being on camera for the first time, not like really being on camera, but just like being with all these people and seeing it move. And I think also first time seeing Oscar in the Mr. Knight costume was pretty surreal. Like, oh wow, we're really making like a superhero show right now. That was pretty cool.
So, going from the set and seeing, these characters in real life, to getting the opportunity to get your hands on the toy versions of them. How did the opportunity come up with the Marvel Legends team?
Yeah, so this guy Nick Pepin, who works on the show, I forget his title, but he's up there. Really cool guy, also a fellow collector. He actually came up to me like one of the first days we started working. He's like, "Hey, so I follow the figure report." I'm like, "Oh, cool, man!" And like I'm kind of a collector as well, and so we just became like really good friends off the bat. And you told me you're a figure collector. I'm gonna connect. Like, it's already like this is supposed to happen, bro. So we were just cool, and like we talked about just our collecting and like what we like. And then he started like telling me like, hey, so we're obviously gonna do like Marvel Legends versions of this. I'm like, oh, no shit. And got my gears spinning for sure. Like that'd be kind of cool to do the figure report, right? And so towards the end, I like basically asked him like, come on, let's make this happen. Like I'm working on the show. I have a figure channel. It just feels like it's meant to be. Like it'd be weird if some other guy did it. Like come on, let's make it happen. And so not so begging, but politely asking. And then he said, I'll see what I can do. He got in touch with some people. And then a little bit afterwards, after I got back from LA where we had the Moon Knight premiere, Dan Yoon from the Legend team reached out, and then we set up a meeting, and then we talked about how he and the team thought it'd be a great idea for me to do a review on the figures. I said that is a great idea, and I agree with you completely. And let's do this. And so that's how it came about. Just like a little bit of waiting period and seeing where it would go. And yeah, it was cool. I really appreciate Nick doing that, and um, recommending me for the review.
Yeah, it's awesome because recently, the Marvel Legends team, they've been on the pod before. Steve, Ryan, Dan, Dwight.
Yeah.
Um, the outreach that they've been doing with the toy community and utilizing either YouTube reviewers or
Mhm.
social media influencers in the toy community,
Yeah.
as a whole, to do these reveals has been really fun because in a lot of ways too it introduces people to sometimes maybe the reviewers that they don't watch all the time. They gave Jay Hernandez, Super Sorrel, the opportunities to take a look at early figures. So initially, when the teases started coming out that you had the Moon Knight figures, it was just cool because initially everyone was like, oh, this must be a new reviewer. He must be doing
Mhm.
something like really cool. Like, can't wait to see the review. And of course, everybody started sharing it, not realizing what the again, like that
Mhm.
twist would be. I'm sitting here smiling, just kind of thinking
that
about.
it's that it's actually like, yes, he is doing something really cool aside from
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And then, it gets to the end of the video and you're sitting there like, oh,
I have my own
okay.
Yeah.
reveal. I have my own Jake Lockley moment.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Except no silencer not needed.
Except I
Yes.
didn't shoot anyone. Yeah, that's true. Except I'm not possessed by an ancient god. Or am
That
I? You
we
don't know.
know
You
of.
have to wait for season 2 or film if we do another Moon Knight. So we'll see. But yeah, exactly. I think that's a cool opportunity for both. For I think Marvel Legend, Hasbro, and for toy reviewers to like have a cool new thing that you get to talk about and show off to people, and also for them to connect with more people in the community. And so I think it works for both parties involved, that we both get a little something out of it. And yeah, I think it's really cool, like you mentioned, Steve and the rest of the team talking to you guys. I remember just like kind of like looking through like my Instagram, and I saw like, oh, Steve started following me. Oh, Dan, Ryan started like like the thing where like you like have like someone that like you're interested in, they start following you like on Facebook or like Instagram, like, oh, hello, that kind of thing. And so I was like, oh, I think something's gonna happen. And then eventually, I would have been very disappointed if they just started following me for no reason. Like that would have been cool, but like I knew it had intent behind it. I knew there was a reason. I think they were just kind of scoping me out to make sure I wasn't a scumbag. And they would be like, okay, that's cool. We can definitely give him the figures to review.
So, mention your brother. It's
Yeah.
not the first time he's had action figures of himself. But did you have the opportunity to introduce these particular figures of the Moon Knight and Mr. Knight figures to him?
Yes, physically, yes. He had seen some early concept, of the figures, like the 3D scans basically. And so we were like, oh, these are gonna be awesome. So then when I finally got the figures, I was like, I gotta go show him. We are basically neighbors too. We live in the same like zip code area. So I walked on over, I showed him the figures, and that video that I posted of him giving a thumbs up, that was his first viewing of the action figures. So that was really cool to show him, and also cool for Hasbro to be like, oh look, you have the actual star of Moon Knight playing with the toys that you made of him. So um that was cool to show him those figures. And like it wasn't the first time I've shown him figures of himself. I mean, if you've seen the Black Series figures, oh boy, we've had a lot of fun with those bastardizations of Oscar. I mean, I did a video back in Miami when Force Awakens came out. Um, I was working with a newspaper with a called the Miami New Times, and so I was working with them. I did like concert reviews and stuff like that. And then the Oscar was coming down for promo for Force Awakens. I'm like, we gotta do something. So then I reached out to them, reached out to his people. We arranged a video interview where I think it's still on YouTube somewhere. Not sure where exactly, but we did a video interview. We played Street Fighter, and then we talked about the movie, and then we talked about his action figures and just how monstrous they were. And so we compared them to like different like characters in film and TV, and like they look like the small guy from Twin Peaks. I don't know if you guys ever seen Twin Peaks.
Yes.
Yeah, like the small guy that's in the room, the black room, I think it's called, the Black Lodge. So that guy kind of looks like the figure, kind of looks like a mutated Benicio del Toro who eventually got into Star Wars. So we just had like he was just like appalled by the Black Series figures. So we're still waiting on Hasbro to make a decent Oscar sculpt. So if you're listening, get to work, boys and girls.
Yeah, the one. So I have mostly the 3 3/4 inch figures. So his first one for the 3 3/4 inch was the the little Black Series figure, and I remember thinking that it looked like Columbo. I was like, oh, cool.
They all look like someone except Oscar. All of them.
The only one that came close.
I just have the pop, so I'm like,
oh yeah, you're fine. You don't have to worry about that. The only one that came close was the Last Jedi one. The one, I think it was like it was packed in with something. I don't actually know. It was a single carded release, but
no, it was a single card. Yeah, that's right.
That
I do
one
have that
came.
one.
That one came close. That one came close. I've seen it, a couple people already, head swapping onto Marvel Legends Moon Knight figures with that
but
figure.
like close, but like in a slightly deformed way. Yeah, I agree for sure. I think there was
melted.
I think there was one that was like a Disney style figure, or like more like 8-inch style that came out for the Force Awakens. That one did I think a fairly decent job, and then like Kodo had like a statue version. I think was kind of decent, but still, they've all been to decent to appalling. So that's kind of like where it is. That's kind of like where they fall.
Well, I for one enjoy my Peter Falk as Poe Dameron action figure. I think it's wonderful.
It's a great cameo. Love Peter Falk.
Man. Yeah, so I mean, hopefully we get more MCU Moon Knight in the future, and get a crack at give the Marvel Legends team a crack at getting your brother's likeness right.
I mean, they're looking better, right? Like I thought the Benedict Cumberbatch one was pretty good. They seem to be getting better and better with the 3D printing, the face scans. So
yeah,
let's hope they get Oscar right.
Yeah, the new Thor figures, the new Chris Hemsworth, the Natalie Portman, we haven't seen exactly what he looks like in the film yet, but the Gore, the God Butcher,
it looks like Christian Bale. It looks like Christian Bale. So that's pretty good. Great job.
So now it's time for some Q&A. This segment is brought to you by our friends at Chubsy Wubsy Toys. A traditional mom-and-pop toy store in Little Falls, New Jersey, Chubsy Wubsy Toys brings you the best new toys from the brands you love without the hassle of pounding the pavement searching for them at larger retail stores. Visit them in person at 106 Main Street in Little Falls, New Jersey, or online at ChubsyWubsy.com. That's ChubsyWubsy.com. And tell them Adventures in Collecting sent you. We sent out a post to our followers asking if anyone had any questions for you, and we did get a few. So these next few questions come from Adventures in Collecting followers. I said it at the top, but if you want a chance to ask a question in a future episode of Adventures in Collecting, you got to follow us at Adventures in Collecting on Instagram. When we have guests on, we do these little Q&A segments, and we ask for some questions. So if you want an opportunity in the future, make sure you're following us there at Adventures in Collecting. Dave, do you want to do the first question here?
I can. At 3v1I_cosplay asks, what figure from your childhood did you always want but never get?
So I was pretty lucky that my mom would really hook it up with like the stuff I wanted. Like I was really into all the Toy Biz X-Men figures. Um, remember asking for either Strong Guy or Brood, and like it would have been like a month I had asked for it, and then finally I got it. I was like really surprised. Um, the one thing I guess would be not a toy but a video game system would be the SNES. I went with my dad to Toys R Us under the impression, the false impression that we were both getting an SNES for me, Super Nintendo. And then like I'm like, "Oh, Dad, thanks for getting this for me." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, thank you." He's like, "Oh, this is for me." I'm like, "Oh." And so I knew that was a fact because he proceeded to buy two games I had no interest in. He bought Monopoly, and he bought a board game for the Super Nintendo. That's how much of a dad he is. And then he bought a game called Wings 2, which was a really awful World War II flight simulator. Um, it was I played that game for like 3 months, and like it was the most frustrating game I've ever played in my life. I kept dying, and all I had to play was Wings 2 for like a few months. And yeah, that was one that was a put a burn by my dad. Really got me on that one.
Sick dad burn.
Sick dad burn,
Yeah.
bro.
Our next question comes from at Oscar Isaac Italia, and they ask, "What's it like filming alongside your brother? Do you tend to agree artistically when shooting?"
Okay. Well, first of all, buongiorno. And second of all, what do we like shooting? Like, what was it like
So
shooting with him?
yeah, so when you're filming alongside your brother, do you guys tend to agree artistically when you're working together?
If by artistically agreeing together, meaning that I just listen to him, he tells me to do this, I say yes, sir. Yes, then we 100% agree artistically. No, yeah, I mean, it would be like I mentioned before, just kind of identifying the intention of it all and talking to him about that. He already knows who these characters are. I'm not coming in with like, hey, I think you should, I think in this scene, Steven's more, it's like, no, I'm listening. Like he's the one driving, he's the actor. He's the one really doing this stuff. So I'm an actor as well, but I know my role in this whole show. Um, so yeah, the day before we shoot, I would read the sides, I read the script for the day, and be like, okay, I think Oscar's probably gonna play Steven first because of this and this, and so in my mind, I already know who I'm gonna play, and then we get there, and then usually I'd be like right, like 90% of the time, um, and so I just kind of like I kind of see where what he has in store, what he has in mind for stuff, but again, predominantly, it was just to make sure that I was helping him get to a certain place when he was performing. So, I guess in that sense we did agree artistically, but he was the one that was, it was his characters, and so I just wanted to make sure I was just serving them right.
All right. At Bring Toys to Work asks, where do you see the figure report 5 years from now? What are your goals in toy journalism?
5 years from now, hopefully still collecting. In case there's like an apocalypse. I don't know. I can't foresee that. But yeah, I mean just kind of doing similar stuff, making some more videos, making that hot content that people love. And pictures and Instagram lives and stuff. It'd be cool to like maybe, do something at a convention or something, do like a live show. That'd be a lot of fun. Um, Maybe have some more guests on and stuff like that. It's kind of just like I'm leaving it to just imagination. Like I have no real like set plans. Okay, year 2 figure report has to be here. Year 5 on these many subscribers. probably a good idea. I set some goals like that, but I'm also cool with just winging it and having fun with it. And I have a large collection of new and older figures, so I want to definitely show off some older figures as well. So I would like to do some more like my not vintage toys that I have, but stuff from like 2000 era. So I'll do more stuff like that, and then also just current stuff that comes out seldomly. Those are kind of like my goals.
Awesome. Well, you have survived the Q&A session. Congratulations.
Thank God.
A little golf clap. You did it.
We did it.
Sweating a little bit. But.
Which brings us to our final question, and I feel like this is fun because Dave, I don't think you've ever gotten you did ask this to Jay, and Jay Hernandez is also an actor. So this is the second actor you've gotten to ask this question to, this inside the actor
Pronunciation.
studio
Well,
themed
and
question.
a voice actor.
Yes, and a voice actor. So the third. This is the third.
The third.
So Dave, would you like to fulfill your role as this podcast's James Lipton and ask the final question?
Yes, I would. So the final question that we ask all of our guests: what is your favorite and/or strangest piece in your collection? It can be one of each, or it can be both.
Strangest piece I have in my collection. I don't consider any of them strange. I consider them just like parts of my being, and maybe I'm part strange. And so, um, going through my collection, I have a lot of stuff that's in boxes. Not gonna lie, and so it's been like I think the best part of the collecting has been opening everything when I had to move. Like that was such a thrilling experience because also I had a lot of toys to open. Um, but strangest toy I have in my collection. I don't, man, that is such a. I have a couple of Oscar heads. I have a couple custom Oscar heads, and they kind of creep me out because they kind of look like him. And so that's a very weird thing to own a figure of your relative, of your brother, or someone you're very close with. It's that's kind of odd. But then you kind of forget about it. But then it also kind of comes back every now and then. You're like, ew, gross. And uh yeah, that would be like the strangest thing. I'm pretty normal. I'm pretty sane when it comes to I don't have like like anything that's worth like $2,000 or something like I found like in a weird like convention hall in Las Vegas or something. Like I've been pretty I've been pretty good when it comes to like my spending when it comes to stuff I get that's within my collecting realm, the stuff I have interest in. There hasn't been anything that I've found or wanted that felt like, oh, this is kind of skewing to like a whole different world of collecting. Um yeah, I don't it was a good question. I remember you sent it to me. I kept thinking about it. And then you know, I mean, unless you find just regular toy collecting strange, yeah, I don't really have anything that's really out there. I'm sorry, it's a very boring, timid answer, but from what I could see, what I looked through, and what I have in there, um, no, nothing really crazy or strange. Sorry, guys.
Well, I think having custom versions of your custom tiny versions of your brother's head is, I think that qualifies.
Yeah.
I think that's fine.
I think that's very valid.
Yeah, it's a little like voodoo like too. It's like owning like a doll of him, so I can perform like Santeria or something, And so I guess in that way, it could be very weird if skew that side. So yeah, let's go with the custom Oscar heads.
Well, we like Oscar, so please don't curse him.
I will not,
Yes.
unless he does something
Do not
that's
do
really upsetting. I mean, look, I think for all the transgressions he committed when I was younger, and there's video evidence of all the stuff he used to do. It's an older brother, younger brother kind of relationship. I think he's been able to repay me for all the damage he did. So
We're very familiar with that. There's 7
Yeah.
years between the two of us, so
Okay.
Yep.
we're very familiar with that younger
Who's-
brother, older brother situation.
what was the worst thing the older brother did?
I don't.
How
you'd have
long's
to
the
answer that.
list?
I mean, you never really did anything that terrible. I mean, there was that one time that I don't know if you remember, Dave. Do you remember that green folding chair I used to have in my room that had like the pouches on the sides on it that like I had like pens and all kinds of
No,
stuff in?
however, I am terrified of what this answer is.
We were playing. D- uh, it was either WWF No Mercy on the N64 or WCW versus NWO Revenge. I honestly don't remember which one, but
Okay.
I beat you,
Did I hit
and
you with the folding chair?
you picked up the chair, and it was a pain in the butt to fold. Like it was one of those like camping chairs that's meant to like withstand a
Did I
hurricane.
WWE you with the folding chair? Did I
Oh
try
yeah,
this at home?
you crushed me with. I was sitting in the chair, so you picked it up, and I thought you were just gonna like angrily throw it across the room because you lost, but you waffled me with the chair. And I remember just sitting there thinking, the chair wasn't like a metal. I mean, the frame was metal, but it was like a canvas chair. So you effectively hit me with like a piece of canvas. But I just remember the pouches on the side like exploded and like pens went
Pens
everywhere,
went everywhere.
and it was just like it was a small room. So like I got hit with a chair. My pens and everything were everywhere, and then you just stormed out of the room. And I remember sitting there thinking like,
Now I have to clean this.
yeah, I have to clean this, but at least I won.
Who's the real winner here? You know, obviously. I'm really glad I could open this worm of unresolved sibling trauma that you guys have. So you're welcome.
No, overall, I mean, other than the stuff like looking back on, like, because now I have two kids and they're 4 years apart, and I can remember times being like, like I wanted to hang out with my brother and his friends because they were older and like that's the cooler thing. But like
Yeah.
I was 7 years younger, they didn't want anything to do with me, and like now, like I totally get like it's like no, get out of here. Like we're
Yeah.
watching
Same.
some horror movie that's going to give you nightmares forever.
No, same. But the difference is that my brother would show me the R-rated movies because he wanted me to have those nightmares forever. So that was a difference. But also, same 7 year gap where he's 7 years older than me, and
Oh
so a
wow.
lot of that feeling of like, man, I want to just hang out with like my cooler older brother. He has like really cool toys and cool friends that are into cool music, and he has a band, and just like my brother would be like, okay, cool, eat this really hot pepper to be my friend, basically, and so it was just like all these trials I had to pass through, these passages of these rites of passages I had to go through for him to be like, okay, you're cool, So it's just part of the process, man. And then yeah, a lot of that, a lot of it's film too. There's a film. He just like I would just be like his his source for pain for his short films for like one called SWAT where he's like a SWAT team and him and my cousin and a friend and they like come into like my room. I was actually in my mother's room and they come in filming me and like all along the watchtower from Jimi Hendrix is playing. That was like really dramatic and they like hog tie me and I'm like, man, and like we got him. We got the perp or something like that. I'm like, I'm like 7 years, like 8 years old or something. It was terrible, but it was also very funny. It's also very funny. I laugh on it, laugh about it, but very tortured as a child. But yeah, I mean, it's how it be, man. It's just how it be.
It's the life of a being a sibling with an age gap. I mean, it's just
Exactly.
I think everyone, regardless of where you grew up in the world, what your situation is, if you had a sibling, male, female, brother, sister, whatever,
Yeah.
I think if there's an age gap there, everyone's got those stories where like
Oh yeah,
it was
man.
tenuous, and
Yeah.
then now like I mean we're not we're not in the MCU over here on our end, but like like we're doing this podcast together, we're closer than
Mhm.
we've ever been. It
Right.
just
Yeah.
it just kind of works out.
Well, just don't play WWF games anymore because it
Yeah.
might create another like feeling from those years ago.
Yeah, no, we don't want any triggering events.
You don't want any triggering events, exactly.
So, Michael, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the pod with us and discuss, your experiences with Moon Knight and starting up the figure report. Before we let you go, just let everyone know where can they find you on the internet.
Yeah, find me on Instagram at the Figure Report, Twitter Figure Report, YouTube the Figure Report. Still working on my Friendster account, so once I get that up and running, I'll let you guys know. Not on
See you on
Spotify yet.
Are you on Usenet, or should we?
I'm not using that. You can. I have a website, angelfire.com/figure report. So I got a lot of really cool GIFs on there. A lot of fun JPEGs, and yeah. So those are the main channels, and yeah. Thanks, guys. Thank you for letting me plug my stuff, and this was so much fun. Really cool.
Well, you're welcome back anytime, and hopefully you're not done with the Moon Knight universe. Maybe you'll be back in those back in that fake nose in no time.
I know the fake nose are waiting for me. I long for it. So it's like I am in servitude to the fake nose.
Thank you for hanging out with us today. Subscribe, rate, and review this podcast wherever you listen, and then tell your friends to do it. Thanks also to Joe Azari, the golden voice behind our intro. Learn more about him in the show notes. Our music is Game Boy Horror by the Zombie Dandies.
Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Adventures in Collecting and on Twitter at AIC_podcast. Stop by and say hi. Show us your hauls and photos. Tell us your toy stories. Maybe we'll talk about it on a future episode.
Don't try this at home. Void where prohibited and some assembly required. Each sold separately, not a flying toy. Consult a physician if your toy run exceeds more than 4 hours.
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer, Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.